essentially what this is all about here. Senator John McCain joins me right now. The Republican sits on the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, what do you make of what we've kind of gleaned thus far?
It's terribly disappointing that any person knowing the catastrophe and the mayhem and the act of terror that was committed by these two brothers would attempt to cover it up. And all of us should be outraged. But what brings to my mind, Neil, is these people were from, I understand, Kazakhstan. Maybe as part of immigration, overall immigration reform, we should look at the process of who's allowed into this country, under what circumstances, what is their situation and background, particularly from countries that have histories such as Dagestan and Chechnya and others where there's been significant influence of radical Islamic extremism. I think that might be appropriate as we move forward with immigration reform.
Well, there certainly are a lot of terrorist elements within just Kazakhstan itself. It's a very large country, but the 7th or 8th largest landmass on Earth.
Yeah, and I would remind you,
go ahead.
And could I just remind you, 40% of the people who are in this country illegally have overstayed their visas. I'd be very interested in knowing the status of these two people from Kazakhstan.
Yeah, you're right about that. Azamat Tazakayev had left the United States in December. What we're learning, Senator, as Shep was pointing out in his hour, is that it was Tazakayev's visa status that was terminated in early January after he was dismissed from the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, academic dismissal, so that would automatically make his visa status null and void. Yet he was able to return to this country after that had happened on January 20th. That alone raises questions about how much we crack down on this sort of stuff.
Yes, and why was he allowed to come back into the country if his visa was revoked? This is, you know, this seems to be a common thread throughout this whole catastrophe and tragedy, is these individuals, where they came from, how they got here, how they stayed. And again, a lot of my friends on my side of the aisle, you know, are concerned about illegal immigration in this country, and we've produced a bill. But I think it'd be very appropriate to have hearings as we move forward with the immigration bill to try to fix what, at least in this case, appears to be a broken system.
All right, so then you'd have to put in that bill countries that you would have on a watch list, or let's say a worrisome or double check list. Kazakhstan would be on that kind of a list?
You know, that's a judgment that we'd have to make. As you said, Kazakhstan is certainly not a functioning democracy, and there is throughout that entire region significant efforts at radical Islamic extremists. So I can't say that positively, but I can sure say that about Chechnya and Dagestan and certain other countries in that very unsettled region. It just seems to me that if these people are able to come and go, and as freely as certainly one of the brothers was and one of these individuals, we have a system that certainly needs some repair.
You know what's interesting in this, Senator, what little we do know, is that none of these three college friends of the Boston Marathon bomber were seen as acting in the attack itself, but then covering it up, essentially. I think that's the gist of it. But what's interesting to me is they obviously align their sympathies more toward their buddy than those in this country who were attacked, killed, maimed, etc. And I'm just wondering how many are in this country who share similar sympathies more with compatriots of theirs than fellow Americans with whom they, at least while they're here, breathe the same air.
It's just incomprehensible that they knew about it. And as you know, one law enforcement officer was murdered by these two brothers after these individuals knew full well that they were responsible for the bombing. So maybe you can't try them for it. Certainly on a moral basis, they are partially or to a large degree responsible for the death of a law enforcement agent.
All right, we are waiting to hear from lawyers, Senator.